Hey guys, in this episode, we're going to be talking about why you should never, ever buy a rental property. We'll see you on the other side.
Welcome to Lovin the Lakeshore, episode number 9. We're going to tell you why many people tell you you should never, ever purchase a rental property. But we're also going to talk about the things of why you should and how it's a good decision long term. So let's dive into why you should not. Should not because there is upfront capital required to get that rental property.
Yes. I would say that's the biggest thing where people come to me and they're like, how can I ever buy a rental property? I mean, they require 20 to 25% to put down on the first one. And that's the biggest hurdle for most people. It's just getting that first property. And I've also found that even having the discussion with people about rentals is just a hot topic. You know, you'll have people that have two sides of the equation. One, their uncle or their aunt from 1984 had a rental and it got trashed, and never do it. Right? It's kind of like, I call it the flare. Like, don't do it because somebody I know had a bad experience. So, and then you get the other side of it where you know that one guy that has like 7 of them and he's just always in a good mood because he gets what we call mailbox money.
Yes. So, well, let's talk about the next reason, which is it's not a get-rich-quick scheme, right? Talk about that mailbox money.
Yeah, it's a slow process. Typically on your first one, it's not super liquid. You're not bringing in so much money that it makes a lot of sense. It seems like a hassle. Yeah. I've often heard that people on the first one want to get out after 2 to 3 years because they just don't want the hassle of it. Right. It's a slow, gradual pay down. So not get rich quick.
Right. And that lack of liquidity, like you were saying, that's the next point of why people don't like them is because it is not easy to get that cash out.
We call it the slow burn, right? Because you do have improvements. Usually on a property you're purchasing as a rental property, you're making improvements up front. So you put the money down, you make the improvements, and then you're slowly tweaking the yard and doing this. So everything is getting squeezed into the property, and that's why it doesn't naturally seem like the greatest investment you ever made.
Yes. So. Plus, if you need to access the funds that you've put into it, right? It can take about 30 to 45 days to do a cash out refinance on it versus like the stocks, 3 to 5 business days, that money's in your account, boom, it's done. So
lack of liquidity because the money coming in barely covers the cost. And then, when you need to go grab that capital back, it's not a stock you can just sell. Yes. You got to chase that money.
Everyone's favorite shouldn't. Tenants and all the drama that comes with them.
Yep. Tenant/drama. Yes, I mean, there are success stories with people that have had a tenant for 25 years. Yes. They paid the property off twice. Yeah. and then you equally hear, I had a couple in there for 3 months. They never paid and took me 3 months. Yeah, 3 months to get them out. And then COVID happened and we couldn't get them out for a year. And there are circumstances that are not always rosy, but that's why people don't get into investing in real estate because they're fearful. Yeah. But it's good to talk both sides of the equation.
For sure. And some of the expenses is the last one. The expenses, especially the property taxes.
Correct. Yep. That's it's a surprise for most people. If you buy a rental property and after you purchase it, you realize the tax rates that were on the property end up going higher because the past owner, it was their primary. And if this is your investment property, you end up paying a premium for your property taxes. So that's another reason why some people get discouraged about buying rental properties. The property taxes are much higher than regular rates.
Yeah. So let's talk about why you should and why it is such a great idea to buy a rental property.
And this is something that I grew up with, right? So the positive is I was raised by a dad that firmly believed in buying rental properties, and I think at one point he had close to 30 rentals paying in every month. So that was just good for me to see at 18 years old because I collected the mail and brought it up to the house. So I learned that that's something that everybody should get into rentals, right? Yes, there's times where it wasn't always rosy, but that was something that I've learned at a young age, that rental income is the biggest reason people buy rentals.
Yes, rental income, right? Long term though, might seem like a little bit, but then you talk about that snowball of continually receiving it, paying it off. So the second one though, home value appreciation.
In episode, I believe number 2 that we did, we talked about how historically the last 36 months, Muskegon, Holland, Grand Haven, Spring Lake, they've all fielded appreciations on all real estate across the board at close to 10% a year. So if you would have bought a property 3 years ago, then that asset would have appreciated close to 30%. So pretty much the money you put down, it's already reimbursed you in value
Yes.
increased. It's not to say that it won't go down again, but
Right.
it's just good to know that sometimes you're getting a statement in your head of that real estate being worth X, not like a stock statement where you get to see it, but you get a feeling that your money you put down just doubled.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you had some pay down on the asset. So that's another perk.
Good. Now, the next one, the tax deductions. We all just
Yes.
filed our taxes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we hopefully you're in a good mood. You filed your taxes on time, thank God. Then you probably are aware that there are line items inside the tax code that allow you to tax deduct your cell phone, your automobile, depending on how you use that for your rental properties. So that's another reason why people get into rentals, is because they might be a high income earner and they're looking for ways to diversify their taxes and actually lower their tax liability. So
Yeah.
that's a big perk.
Next one, hedge inflation.
Yes.
We all know about inflation. Everybody talks about it.
Yeah, the hedge is complicated. Some buyers here, or
What is
some
hedge?
some people hear hedge, and they're like, "How does a rental property hedge anything?"
Yeah.
And it's really in an inflation market where we're seeing close to 8% inflation. Real estate is kind of a good boat anchor for that. It keeps everything level, because if you own a real estate asset in a high inflation market, that real estate is going up with inflation. So you can almost predict that those home values will go up with inflation, which is a perk for hedging on a high inflation market. You got to own to do that, though. So you can't just sit there and go, "Oh, I should hedge," and then 3 years go by. You need to buy real estate now in order to hedge against inflation later.
Yes. And as you increase capital, the last item is being able to get that capital out with cash out refinances and home equities.
Correct. Like, one of the big reasons why people say that they don't want to get into real estate is because of, the capital up front, right?
Right.
What they don't realize is when those properties appreciate in value and the tenants have paid them down, you have real equity sitting in those properties that you can pull out in the form of a cash out refinance.
Yes.
So you can get your money back. It takes a little time, but when it does come back, it's nice to have. So,
Wow. We hope that you got some very good information from this. If you're thinking about buying a rental property or financing a rental property, reach out to Brian or myself. We would love to help make that happen for you. We'll see you next time.